It's been about 3 years since I started full-time traveling, and I would say a bit more than half of that has been solo travel. While there are some countries that are a bit more dangerous, or I would say higher risk than others, I've learned from traveling that it doesn't matter where you are in this world, bad things can still happen. Just because you're in your hometown or your home country, it doesn't mean that you're safe from harm. Traveling, of course, can increase your risk because you're in this unfamiliar area, but you should still always be prepared and alert. In this video, I'm gonna share with you an interview I did that you may find shocking and a bit difficult to listen to, honestly. I know I was shocked. It's about 2 young American female tourists traveling to New Zealand for the first time, which is currently ranked the 2nd safest country in the world by the World Population Review. Yet both were mugged and beaten in the middle of the night, and one of them even cut her trip short and flew home early.
Police officers were telling us the whole time that this never happens in New Zealand. This is the case of the year. One of the police officers was like, I worked the night shift for 10 years I have, and this is the first time I've been called in to come in at night for something like this. They say that most of the calls that they get are from domestic violence in New Zealand, but almost no actual crime in terms of stealing or robbery or muggery or anything like that actually happens. In New Zealand, guns and stuff, especially with the Christchurch shootings, those are not common. People don't carry weapons with them. So we were talking to the police officers about should we arm ourselves, and Maddie was saying, can we get pepper spray? And they're saying that pepper spray is illegal in New Zealand. And they said, honestly, it's better for you not to arm yourself, because if they take that, they can just use that weapon on you. It's a little discouraging. I felt Maddie and I were very man, if we were boys, this wouldn't happen to us, and that kind of thing. And just because when you are a woman, you are targeted as more vulnerable, whether or not you actually are.
Before I share her full story, I want to share with you my personal experience traveling to New Zealand, because I was literally shell-shocked when I heard what happened. So I was in New Zealand for the month of February. I traveled there completely alone and with no plan. A few hours literally before my flight from Australia to New Zealand, I had posted on the New Zealand backpacker group asking if any fellow travelers wanted to join in on renting a car and exploring the South Island as I was flying into Christchurch. This French guy named Eddie messaged me saying that he had a van. So that very first day in Christchurch, we met up for coffee and to get to know each other, and then the next day we took off on our road trip that lasted for a few weeks. He slept in his van and I slept in a tent outside. I also impulsively decided to buy a kayak to make the trip more interesting. Now, my entire experience basically living outside, never once did I feel unsafe. Eddie and I even sometimes would leave the car doors wide open as we went to, go to the bathroom, brush our teeth or something, and nobody ever even approached the car. Also, with our kayaks, they were tied to the top of the car. They're not completely secured in, it would be very easy just to steal them, or sometimes we even left it next to the car, so literally all you had to do was pick it up and go, and again, nobody ever touched them. Once we reached the North Island, Eddie and I started to do our own thing, and I started hitchhiking solo for the first time in my life because I no longer had access to his van, and getting around New Zealand can be a bit difficult, and honestly, it was a great experience. I met some really cool people. I did have one time that I did get a bit nervous because I was in the middle of the countryside at night, literally nothing around me, but I got picked up by a group of these Maori women who were super nice, super cool. They were actually telling me in the car that it's so common to hitchhike here and very safe that even little kids are doing it, which I don't know, if I had kids, I would let them be hitchhiking, but that's how safe it is, that people feel confident to let their kids hitchhike here. The only other time that I felt a bit uneasy, or I guess a little sketched out, was in Rotorua, where all the geothermal activity is. I don't know the statistics of this area, I'm just saying from my personal feelings that I did feel a bit uneasy walking at night alone. So Rotorua is not only known for its geothermal activity, but also for its high population of Maori. Maori is the natives of New Zealand. Now, I'm not saying that Maoris are more dangerous or anything like that. No, I met some lovely Maoris when I was hitchhiking, but I'm just pointing out that was the difference I saw in this area versus all the other places I went to New Zealand, was the higher population of Maoris. But I still went out at night. It didn't stop me. I even went out to 3 a.m. one time dancing. I was with Eddie and one of his friends, so I wasn't completely alone, but I did feel secure. The last place that I felt a bit unsafe was in Ohinimutu, I think that's how you pronounce it, which is a local Maori village Village in Rotorua. Now, the place itself, it was beautiful, super interesting to walk around, see the different architecture. I even saw some kids practicing what I assume is haka, which is a ceremonial dance or challenge in Maori culture, which tourists can pay to go watch the live performance if they want to. But it wasn't the people that worried me, it was actually the environment. The entire place was steaming. Like steam coming out of literally everywhere that I had to pay attention to where I was walking. There were even signs posted everywhere saying, "Danger! Thermal area." And the thing is that I didn't know if this was actually that dangerous because I didn't know anything about this area. I just kind of stumbled upon it. I had previously been to Kuiurau Park, which is all like thermal pools and steaming, but it was fenced off. This wasn't fenced off. Like steam was literally coming out of like underneath cars and like houses and everywhere. So I just looked it up and actually it's really unsafe. All this steam and all these little pits are hydrogen sulfide, and this is a really dangerous area. Kind of Rotorua is just not really in the best spot. I mean, it's a volcano that they're living on, but this is the Maori village and they don't want to leave it. They said they haven't had problems. Yeah, so obviously for the Maoris, it's not dangerous, but from a tourist perspective, when you have no idea what's going on, like I was a bit freaked out and worried I would like step into, I don't know, my potential death. Anyways, to sum up, I would agree that New Zealand is definitely one of the safest countries I've ever traveled to, but then I got a message from one of my best friends from home saying his girlfriend Sabrina, who I had previously advised on places to go in New Zealand, was mugged and beaten and had come home after just a week of being there because she was traumatized, and I was stunned. Sabrina agreed to tell me her story over video chat, so to be honest, the quality is not very good, and it's also not the full interview. The full interview was 44 minutes long, and this video is already long as is, but if you do want to hear the full interview, you can access that on my Patreon under Secret Podcasts. The last thing I want to mention is that these two women were freedom camping, which basically means you have a self-contained vehicle, and then you can camp in certain spots for free, and that's important to know in the context of the story. That is what they were doing.
The reason why we were in New Zealand was because we were going to do a bike tour. We were going to be there for a total of a month. In the first week, we were going to like play tourists in the Northern Island, and we had a rental car. In the remaining 3 weeks of the trip, we were going to go down to the South Island and then bike from Picton to Queenstown, which is like about 1,000 miles.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But we weren't able to do that because of what happened in the Northern Island. We were trying to go to the Waitomo Caves. Maddie, my partner, routed us to a freedom campsite that she thought was a freedom campsite. And we got there around like 9 o'clock at night-ish, drove up this private dirt road, and instead of there being a campsite, it was like a private residence, like a ranch house. And so we were like, this is not a campsite. We were gonna, essentially what we had been doing was just setting up a tent on the side of the road and camping there. Basically, there's nobody out there. Like, we were probably a 20-minute drive from any other part of civilization. This house was just in the middle of the boonies. And this road that we were on was essentially like a very long private driveway, about like a mile or two long. And we had previously done the same thing like other nights as well, like out in the wilderness. So we didn't really think it was a problem. And like you were saying, New Zealand is so safe. And we go to bed around like 9 p.m.-ish. And then I wake up around like 11:45 to like car lights. But so the car lights showed up and then they disappeared and then they came back. So what that was a car driving up like from the road, not from the private residence, like from the road's direction. They passed our tent in our car, turned around, and then came back and pulled up behind us. And so I wake up Maddie and I'm like, Maddie, it's probably the owners of the house, because nobody else is there, you know? I'm like, it's probably the owners of the house telling us to leave or like get lost, you know, things like that. So I get out and it's like this little dark colored sedan and like two guys in there and like they have black gloves on. I was like, hey, you know, sorry for camping on the side of the road. And these guys just start talking over this. And I was like, oh, do you live like at the house? And they were like, we live here. This is our land, blah, blah, blah. And they start talking over each other and started talking about like something about being Maori and things like that. They're the indigenous people there. And they were just saying like, this is our land, get off our land. And so I was like, okay, like we're leaving, like we're going to pack up our tent and leave. And then when one of the guys like gets out of the car and I was like, whoa, we don't want any trouble. And his friend's like, no, he's just trying to pee. And I'm like, oh, I don't think he's just trying to pee. And I'm like, Maddie, like, get out of the tent, because she's not out of the tent yet, because she like is getting her pants on and stuff. So I'm still like out there by myself. They're like, is it just you two girls? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and then it was very, very fast what happened. One of the guys was like, you can leave or you can pay. I was like, oh, like paying for like to stay on your property for the night. And I was like, no, no, we'll just like leave. We can go. Like, I don't want any trouble. They're like, no, 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 like leave or pay. And I was like, we're going to leave. Like, we will leave you alone. And they're like, well, frankly, if you don't pay, you can't leave. I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I know it's about to happen. And then, like, as soon as, like, I thought that, one of the guys, like, literally just, like, tackles me from the side. He, like, grabs my hair and pulls me to the ground. And so he's, like, punching me in the face, like, slamming my head on the ground, like, just trying to, like, beat me up and scare me. Like, at that point, I'm like, they're robbing us for sure. And so he was, like, beating me up, and you could tell that he wasn't trying to, like, hurt me, like, meaning, like, he didn't want to break my arms or anything like that. He wanted to knock me out so that, like, there would be no resistance. So when I realized that, I was like, well, if I get knocked out, like, who knows what's going to happen to Maddie? And then also, they're going to steal our car with all of our bikes and our possessions and, like, literally everything in there. Like, I will have nothing. He was hitting my head, and I would see, like, white, and then I would come back, and then I'd see white, and I would come back, and I was like, all right, I'm getting knocked out right now. Like, this is not good. I was like, uncle, 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 like, I'm done, like, fine. And I was like, I'll pay you, I'll pay you, I pay you. And so he, like, just kept going for a while until, like, finally he kind of realized, I think his friend was like, dude, she said stop. While this is all happening, Maddie runs around and, like, honks the horn, and he, like, grabs her and is like, stop it, don't move. And you could tell he doesn't want to hurt her. He's just like, don't try anything. Don't be a hero. And so the guy that's attacking me, like, pulls me up on my hair and, like, slams my head against the car and is like, where's your money? Where's your wallet? And Maddie hands them my wallet, and they take, like, $200 out of it. He was like, I want more, give me more. And I was like, dude, I don't have anything. And, like, there's no way they're going to steal a bike. They can't even fit a bike in their car. It's, like, so small. And so I was like, I don't have anything. And so he grabs my phone out of my hand. He's like, this is what I want. And so then he turned to Maddie and was like, essentially, like, what money do you have? Do you have anything? And Maddie was like, oh, Sabrina carries all the money, which is smart of her to say. It actually was true that I had all the cash on me, but even if you don't, like, even if the cash is divided between two people, like, say that one person has all the cash on them. While he was distracted, I ran around to the other side of the car, got in the driver's seat and turned on the car, put the keys in the ignition, putting the car in drive, I think. And then he, like, comes around, opens the door, and, like, pulls the keys out of the ignition, like, punches me. And the whole time he's just calling, like, word cunt is, like, a big word in New Zealand, apparently, and it's not as offensive as it is in America. And so he's just like, you bloody cunts, like, blah, 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 just calling us names. I'm like, dude, I did not do a damn thing to you. Like, what? Then he grabbed my phone off of my lap and was like, I got what I wanted. They drove away. So I was like, okay, well, there goes my phone, my credit cards, my money, like, everything. We have two choices. Either one, to drive to the bottom of the road, like, towards those guys and onto the main road, or to drive the other way, like, to the top where there's, like, private houses. And it's a dead-end road. It doesn't go anywhere. We, like, drive up the street to this, like, private residence, running around, banging on all the windows, yelling, help, help us. Right when we're about to give up, this elderly couple comes out, like, really old, like 80s. So they let us inside, made me a cup of tea. We called the police, and the police came. And the thing is with New Zealand is, like, in America, I almost wouldn't have called someone because, like, I got my phone stolen, so what, you know? Like, in America, people don't really react that way. In New Zealand, like, the police are, like, so beyond helpful, it's ridiculous. We drove to the police station, they took our statements for like 4 hours, and then they have a program called victim support in New Zealand, and it works for international travelers as well. Essentially what they do is, if, like, for example, if I got my phone stolen or if I needed a place to stay for the night, they will pay for it for me. And so, like, that night, victim support put us up in a hotel nearby. And so we got to stay in a hotel, like, shower, we got a free breakfast. They fingerprinted us, they took DNA from my fingernails, and then they kept our car overnight because there may have been handprints on the car. And then right now what they're doing is they're growing the DNA, like the bacteria from underneath my fingernails to try to see if anything comes up. Because when I was fighting him, I, like, gouged his eyes out a couple times and grabbed his balls. Like, the physical injury that you can see is, like, this mark right here. And that's from his, like, fingernail, like, scratching me like this. So got really infected. It was really gross. That was, like, the main, like, laceration, I guess, I had from him. I had a lot of bruising in the back of my head, behind my ear, and that kind of thing. And then, like, in my hair, you couldn't see it because it's in my hair, but I had, like, really big bumps and swelling under my eyes as well from him hitting me. victim support also paid for me to be able to go to a doctor. They were like, yeah, you have a concussion. And I was like, yeah, I figured. They prescribed me some anti-nausea pills because I was super nauseous from it. I still deal with a lot of nausea these days. We were going to Rotorua afterwards, and it was so funny because when we pulled in, it was exactly what you were saying, where there's big signs saying, like, if you want to hitchhike, like, these are the places you wait, and this is where people get, like, picked up, like, literally, like, official big signs about that. And I was like, what? And I was like, of course, like, New Zealand is so safe, like, hitchhiking is so safe, blah, blah, blah. But then here I am. Yesterday, I got mugged in the middle of the woods. And so Maddie and I were very much like, we don't want this to spoil our trip. Like, we're better than this. We're stronger than this. Ditched our rental car in Wellington, and we took a ferry across from Wellington over to Picton, which is like the top of the southern island. And then we rode our bikes from Picton to Nelson. And that's about 120 kilometers. Me alone, like on a bike, no car or anything, like totally unprotected in these mountains. And I was just like thinking about what had happened a couple days ago, and I had like a total panic attack. And then that was when Maddie and I really had to sit down and be like, can you do this bike ride? And I was like, I don't think I can. Like, Maddie was okay. She was okay with still camping sometimes and staying in hostels. But for me, I think I was just a little too traumatized to like be able to be that isolated and like to be camping on the side of the road and a foreign country and those kinds of things. And so we ultimately made the call that I would fly home.
First of all, I want to give a huge thanks to Sabrina for being brave enough to share her story. I think it's very important to be aware of these types of situations, especially if you like to travel. She's an outdoorsy traveler, but unfortunately this experience did cause her a lot of anxiety that she's still dealing with today. She talks about this in the podcast, talks about whether she thinks she'll ever travel again, talks more about her concussion symptoms, and then ends it with advice for fellow travelers, specifically targeting women. I personally think one of the best decisions she made was to cut her trip early and fly home, because that's too much trauma in such a short period of time to get over and then enjoying your travel experience. I do really hope one day she can get over her fears and come back to New Zealand and finish that crazy long bike trip that she had planned, and I do have faith that she will. But okay, that was very heavy. I want to end this video on a positive note. I don't want to freak you out from visiting New Zealand. Before I do, I want to quickly mention how important it is to be insured when you are traveling. You never know what life's gonna throw at you. Like the policeman said, this kind of stuff never happens in New Zealand, but it did. So you want to be insured. If you're looking for a good insurance provider, I personally use Safety Wing. It's insurance for nomads, and I put links in the description box of every single one of my videos, so you can check that out if you're interested. Okay, let's look back at all the good memories from my trip to New Zealand. It has been a crazy journey here in New Zealand. I didn't plan New Zealand at all. I really was told that the best way to explore New Zealand is to rent a car, but I don't know anybody. I'm obviously traveling solo. So I'm meeting up with this one guy now who has a van. Don't leave without me! I'm driving him crazy, so he has to buy 4 coffees.
Au cas où je meurs sur la route aujourd'hui, car j'ai eu la bonne idée de laisser, voilà, comme vous voyez, le volant à Poppy.
The string broke, so I can't put up my tent now. Wow, I love it. Look how beautiful it is. It's been like maybe 48 hours since we've been together, and there's just been so many problems. So Eddie is carrying the tent right now. Oh my god, there's a cat in our car. Why are there only 3 sandwiches left? Eddie forgot to pack all of our food. Now let's.
Excuse me.
I'm having the best time because I've got this gorgeous view behind me. Oh my god, it's so cute. It's gotta be the most beautiful country I've ever been to. Honestly, I've never hitchhiked by myself before, so I am a little bit nervous.
Did you know it only took her a whole 2 minutes and 59 seconds to get picked up?
Oh, you're holding it upside down, so that's not
really?
Yeah.
This is crazy cool. We got a nice little setup here. You just threw water at me at the gas station.
Mais oui, c'est parce que tu prends pas de douche.
I can't take you seriously.
Come on.
Everywhere is beautiful, and the scenery and the landscapes consistently change. I've known you for what, 8 days? And you're like more annoying than my brother?
In French, tu m'emmerdes. Tu me fais chier.
Eddie is dyeing my hair blue right now. Regardez-moi. This is so beautiful. This is on our drive to Milford Sound. We've been literally sleeping outside for the last 2 weeks. This is basically what we're seeing our entire drive. Like, this is awesome. I'm loving this. If you'd like to get exclusive videos on my daily life, advice on travel, and being an influencer, go to patreon.com/where'spoppy. Get access to early releases, updates about my travels, exclusive monthly Q&A videos, and my secret podcast. If you feel more secure with PayPal, you can always just send a donation to paypal.me/supportwhere'spoppy. For information about my film equipment, travel insurance, music, VPN, other social media accounts, and more, check out those links in the description below. Thanks for watching.